special guest here, the one and only Sam Wegert. Sam, man, we could talk for hours, I feel like, and we're going to try to do this concise in 30 minutes to really hone in on co-living, but we're going to have you back. I'm just going to tell the listeners right now, like, they're going to love you, and don't worry, Sam's going to come back.
Let's go.
So Sam, we met almost a decade ago. I've seen your growth, love your energy, love your faith. You take good care of the community, your health, your body, and you've started in martial arts. You like, dude, I could do a 30-minute intro on you, right, bro? So we're going to give links in the bios, and so everybody can look up the UpLevel Studios. And what I really want to spend time on today is just like the Reader's Digest version, right, of like, what was your first real estate deal like? A little bit about you, and what are you working on now with your business that's all designed. Literally, the name is Scale Your Real Estate. So I'm going to hand it over to you, my friend, and
Thanks, brother.
Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, it's been cool. Like I feel like we haven't chatted in a little while, so we've been riffing for the last 15 minutes on becoming one with the Father and Jesus and religion and like just cool stuff. And I appreciate your faith too, man. And it's always inspirational to chat with you. So thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I mean, long story short, I think a piece that's relevant to your listeners is that I was in a business. I ran martial arts schools, and that was my W-2 job, so to speak, even though it was my business. And I kind of scaled that to some extent. You know, I opened up 6 brick and mortar schools, and a mentor came along and was just like, look, your business is doing well now, but it might not always do well. Like things happen in business, right? And so he said, why don't you skim some money off the top and just diversify? And looking back, man, what great advice. Because in COVID, my business got shut down for 8 months. We had no, like we built an online program, did the whole thing, but it was like, we're brick and mortar schools. So all this to say is I took that money that I skimmed off the top and I put it into real estate. And that was just such a beautiful lesson for me. So my first real estate deal ever really was what we call a house hack, right? It was me trying to live for free. I bought a 3-bedroom, 3-bath condo in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I wasn't thinking of co-living at the time. That really wasn't even a term. You know, this was probably 12 years ago now. So, 2001, 2002, something like that. And actually, it would have been 20 years ago. So 2010. Sorry, my math was off there for a second. And I wasn't thinking
Sam's an old soul, but he's still only like, he's in early 30s. When I met him, he was early 20s. Like, and he's one of those guys who are like, yeah, dude, old soul.
I'm 31. I was not buying real estate at 10 years old. I just want to clarify that for your audience. It's not 20 years ago. Although that would have been badass. So I lived in one room and I rented out the other 2 rooms. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, I am like making like a little bit of money and I'm living for free. It doesn't get much better than this. So that was my first real estate deal. I bought it for $67,000. I think I rented each room for $550. I bought it cash.
What state?
It was in Virginia.
What state was that?
Yeah, in Charlottesville, Virginia, right where the University of Virginia is. 175 Yellowstone Drive. I'll never forget it, bro. You never forget the address of your first one, right?
That's right.
Number 002.
Still have that property?
Nope. I sold it probably 8 years after I bought it for doubled in value. I sold it for 135, and I had cash flowed it pretty much the whole time. It was my only property. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. It was my only property in Virginia, and it was a little condo. It just didn't make sense to keep it. So, I stumbled into co-living. I'll tell this next piece, and then I'll turn it back over to you. But I stumbled into co-living because I moved to Charlotte for work to like do my martial arts gig. And I just thought, you know what, the quote unquote right thing to do is to buy a house, right? Like, don't rent because that's throwing your money away. That's what everybody told me. So I bought this house, and I'm one of 8 brothers and sisters, so I'm used to like noise and commotion, and I'm used to having to talk like this to get any attention, right? Because you talk fast and be dynamic. And I bought this house, and it was just too quiet, man. It was just too quiet in the house, and so I thought, I'll rent a room. Like, I'll get a roommate, and that worked. I thought, I'll rent another room. So I had 2 other rooms. So I ended up renting 3 other rooms in this house. And it was fun. Like, the dude came from Mexico and he was living there. He was like making great money, but he he wanted to save money. So he just wanted to rent a room, and we became good friends. And it hit me when one of my buddies was like, hey, that house that you're living in, you'll probably rent for like what, like $1,400 a month? And I looked it up at the time where it was in Charlotte. I was like, yeah, maybe $1,500. And I thought, wait a second. It would only rent for $1,500 if I rented it to a single family. This thing's doing like $2,800, $2,900, right? And that was kind of where I was like, maybe this isn't just about me like having cool experiences and having cool roommates. Like maybe I could like, do this more. And I can keep going on that if you want me to, but I'll stop there just to give you a chance. But that was like where it kind of clicked. Like maybe this is an investment strategy, you know?
And I think for the listeners out there, there's really the easiest two ways, because my story is very similar to yours with having the roommates, and then it almost becomes like an addiction where you're like, dude, I'm not paying my mortgage. I want to live for free and make money. And yeah, there's always something social going on. And as long as the building's kind of designed well. And then for me, it changed once there was children involved.
Of course.
Right. And then that's where it can be a duplex where you actually do have your own separate units, and for a lot of people they can finance up to a 4-unit with very little money down. The other side would be if they don't have the capital to own real estate, they could do like an Airbnb arbitrage, right?
Yes.
And that's what we're recommending to people on the podcast. Like, take a look at the Airbnb arbitrage, but other than that, if you have the ability to own a home, and you did the first one with a condo, I have these in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which are single families. So the challenge that we encounter in the northern states is just much more legalities, and the townships have come through, and the municipalities and the cities have said, zoning wise, this is a single family home. And then they say, here's how we define a single family zoned home, which is no more than X amount of unrelated parties.
Sure.
And the states that you're able to really scale this out in, my guess is they don't have those same restrictions. For instance, Philadelphia right now, it's 3. You can have a 7-bedroom house, but only 3 unrelated. Westchester, where I am, it's 4. And for me, the numbers get good at 4.
Yeah, for
Sam,
me, they get good for me at 7.
Home at 7.
So let's talk about can we go into legality since you brought it up, because this is actually big.
Sure.
So when were those I'm gonna start with like a big picture kind of conceptual thing, and then I'll get detailed and talk to you how I've been discussing this with my lawyers. When were those laws created? Those are not recent laws. To my knowledge, those are the number of unrelated people. From my research, because we have them here, I have them in Charlotte. It's 4 in some areas, it's 5 in some areas, 6 in some areas. Those laws were created for 2 reasons, and they are old. They were created to keep undocumented, illegal immigrants from all 15, 20 people living in a house, and they were designed to keep out prostitution houses. That is the intent of those laws. In my opinion, we are so far from that, those are not relevant to some extent. Yeah. That being said, let's talk nuts and bolts, because dude, I've been diving into this because now I'm starting to coach people, and I've realized I've got to be on my A game when it comes to legalities of this. Yes. So I reached out to one of the largest co-living companies in America right now, which is called PadSplit. They don't own real estate. They are the tech platform of doing this. Now, PadSplit has well over 5,000 rooms in over, don't quote me on the exact number of cities, but I know they're in at least 20 cities around the United States. So I called their head legal counsel, and they have a big legal budget, by the way, because they deal with this, right? And they're in it to change the zoning regulations for the long term. That's their long-term play. Little sidebar, but they have done such a good job. I like shouting them out. So Charlie is the head legal counsel, and then Atticus LeBlanc is the CEO. They've just done such a good job for co-living and affordable housing. But they lobbied the U.S. Department for Housing and Urban Development. HUD put out a recommendation that all municipalities in the United States and all cities and municipalities should look at co-living to help solve affordable housing. And HUD went so far as to say, you can use housing choice vouchers for co-living. If someone wants to rent a room, so Section 8 vouchers can now be used anywhere in the United States for co-living. Now there's their whole complicated formula of how to figure out how much the voucher will pay you and whatever, but this is a big deal. This is the HUD, this is coming from like, the organization that looks at affordable housing and helps to solve these problems, is saying, guys, like, use co-living, like, work it into your zoning, and not only that, like, we'll help pay for it. So that's pretty cool. That was a huge, I didn't do that. That was something that came from Pats, but they literally hired a lobbyer to go in and like have these conversations. Pretty badass. So I hope people understand, like, that's kind of the direction things are going. But when it comes to nuts and bolts, I asked the Pad Split head legal counsel, I said, you're in 25 cities. I said, do you get zoning violations? He goes, yes, we get zoning violations. I said, how many times have you been shut down? You have 5,000 rooms and you're like growing rapidly. They just got a $110 million valuation. He goes, we've never been shut down. Not once. Okay. That's a great track record. Now here's how they do it. Are you ready for the legal strategy? Because it's a little complicated.
I would love it, because I got shot down on some building permits.
Yeah.
Where I was going to change living room to bedroom and this and that, and go for the 7 or 8 bedroom.
Yeah, you can't have Pad Split and how I'm structuring my company right now. Like, literally, because of this conversation about 3 weeks ago that we're structuring our company this way, you can't have leases. You have members. Literally, the membership agreement literally starts off with, this is not a lease. You become a member of an organization. I want you to think of a fraternity house. You have, I don't know how many people does a fraternity have in it, but it's got X number of people, and those people have the ability to use the property. They actually become special members, non-voting members of the organization. They pay a membership fee, they pay their dues, and they can use them. And then, guess what? The company that owns the real estate has an agreement with the company that has all the members. And guess what a company is considered in the United States? One person. So if my company that owns my property, I know this is a little complicated, but it is the formula that the big guys are using. So if my company that owns my property leases to a company with a crap ton of members, nobody can tell me my members can't use it. I'm leasing to one person. I'm leasing to one LLC, and they are using my property. That is the way around it, Ralph.
Okay.
Now,
let's bring all the listeners. Go ahead.
I want to say there's one more thing. That is the legal strategy. I also asked the lawyer, the Pad Split lawyer, I said, how many times does it go that far where you have to share that legal strategy? He goes, it rarely goes that far, because every co-living home that we have, the rule is it's just as nice, if not nicer, than every other home in the neighborhood. He goes, where we get screwed is when people leave the trash out. There's parking everywhere, and you haven't figured out how to figure out parking. And there's the grass is long, and it's a terrible house, and it's run down. That's when it becomes an issue.
Got it.
Anyway, so
when it's on the neighbor's radar and they're calling the township, that's when it's on. So what we're talking about here is, because we just went from 0 to 1,000.
I'm sorry.
But we're talking about taking a home and let's take a 4-bedroom, but we're talking about renting it to more individuals by adding bedrooms, adding bathrooms, converting garages, converting sunrooms, where there's 7 or 8. My tenants are mostly young professionals. Most of my tenants have full-time jobs. I have there's a company near us called Vanguard, which is like international asset management company. Yeah. They're making close to 6 figures, and they do not want to spend $2,000 a month on a 1-bedroom apartment plus utilities.
Yeah.
Right. Or when it's all factored in, utilities and internet.
Deposits, internet. Yeah. The whole shebang.
It's like, they don't want to do that. They want to spend $700 to maybe $1,000 or a little bit more on average per month, but pay per week or pay per month. They want to save their money. I just had one contact us and say, hey, I'm ready to buy a house. And I'm like, great. I think you should probably buy a co-living house, buy your own, because in 2 years, he just saved $30,000.
Yes.
And the home is the property's well taken care of because I'm the landlord. I'm making sure the grass is cut.
That's right.
I'm taking care of the bushes. They have a system for bringing the trash cans in. The common areas are clean. The bathrooms are clean.
Yes.
It's like you walk in and it's just like, this is like one of the nicest rentals I've ever seen.
Yes. Yes.
So have you actually submitted building permits to say, I want to add more bedrooms and gotten it approved? Or are you able to buy properties that already have, because I got shut down buying a property because I was showing them I want to add a bedroom here. I want to add a closet in Pennsylvania. You have to have a certain square footage. You have to have a closet. You have to have an egress window.
Right.
Right. And I'm redesigning, or I was trying to redesign. I was actually going to call it the Zen House. I even had the LLC stacked away somewhere. And my building permit got shut down. But they wouldn't tell me why until I physically went into the office. And then they emailed me some code from 1990 that I couldn't even find on the website that says, nope, this is what it is. And I just didn't want to.
Right.
For me, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Why couldn't you have told them, like, when you submitted for the building, this is just more of a curious question, actually. When you submitted for the building permit, did you have to tell them the use case of it? Or did you say, like, I want extra bedrooms, I got lots of kids? Like how did you have to tell them, like, I am going to be renting this out per bed? Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I did. I was just like, this is what I want to do.
Right.
This is what I want to do.
And they're like, heck no. Yeah.
And they're like, no, well, they probably would have approved a building permit because it would have been to a certain code with egress windows and closets and everything else. But they're saying you can only have 3 unrelated. And what Sam is filling in for all the listeners here, right, is, okay, you're saying a corporation rents the entity. That corporation then has members,
yes.
and those members can use the entity. And this is the first line of this, not lease, this is not a lease. This is a membership agreement.
Yes.
And the membership agreement lasts for a certain period of time with certain amenities,
exactly,
etc. Because
you get it.
What we're talking about here is this is very valuable for affordable housing.
And I'm glad you highlighted the benefits of that, because there's a certain piece of me, and this is going to sound really harsh, but there's a certain piece of me that's like, come on, guys, like, whoever's making the zoning laws and different, like, do more for affordable housing. Yeah. Sure, like, do more for affordable housing. The whole reason this is needed right now, and the reason we're at 100% occupancy, Rob, in 150 rooms. 100% occupancy in 150 rooms is because it's freaking needed. So I'm glad you highlighted that, because I was in a town called Asheville the other day. We have a couple co-living places in Asheville. Asheville's very like hippie, green, help the environment. And I went to this meetup and I started talking about co-living, but strictly from an investment standpoint. And everybody was like, I almost got shut out. And I was like, shoot, I just should have talked about the tenant benefit first, which you just highlighted, which is like, yeah, I lived in these homes for 13 years. I lived in my homes with 4. When my wife met me, I had 6 roommates. And it was a money thing, but it was also like, I'm spending less. Like, these guys, even though they're making 80, 90,000, like some of the people, some of them weren't. Some of them just, hey, this is all they could afford. Some of them were making more, but they got to send money home. They got to take care of their mom. They got to save for a house. So I just want to thank you for highlighting those benefits, because that's why HUD came out with the recommendation. That's why this is growing. And yes, the mission is to help investors, but the mission is to solve affordable housing.
Sure. And it's the same coin. It's just the other side of it when you bring up the affordable housing, because nothing is new development, and that's where my company, the RW Development, is going. It is every bit of close to $200,000 per apartment to build for a new 2-unit apartment, for a new 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
$200,000. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what's the cost of capital, how much did you have to risk to get the development started, and all of that to determine I cannot build this as low income unless I get a ton of government subsidies, which aren't available on the smaller stuff.
That's right.
And then there's a guest I'd love to have. He's a close friend. He's a developer in West Philadelphia. He will not get on the show, which is fine. And he is basically saying, Rob, the politicians aren't interested in, they're really not interested in affordable housing when you actually get down to brass tacks of, this is how much the developer needs to make the project be successful. Here's where the communities need to support. Now, if I could develop that same amount of square footage,
Yes.
1,200 square foot, a really nice large 2-bedroom, or even 1,000,
Yes.
and reconfigure it a little differently, which is being done
Yes, it is.
around the
It
country.
is.
There are new builds where the ratio to bedrooms to bathrooms and how the galley kitchen's designed
Yep.
and all of this is,
Yep.
so it's coming. Like,
Yeah.
this is here. And what you basically shared with us is to say, and the larger companies are spending money in Washington to say, look, take a look at this problem. This law doesn't match the intent. Great intent, right?
Yes.
Don't cram 25
Of
people in a
course. Of
house
course.
and exploit them for whatever reason it
Yes.
is, whether
Yes.
it's whatever type of
That's
work it
right.
is. Like, we're saying that's a good, like, that's good. But what we're saying is the way it's written, it's precluding a lot of humans
Yes.
from having affordable housing, and before, your housing would be like 25% of what you make. That's what would be like a financial advisor's rule.
Yeah.
And now it's like 45,
That's right.
55.
That's right.
And it's like, it's the other articles have said, it's the single person tax.
Yeah.
Because we're just talking about the cost of renting a room.
Right.
You could get into, how about the benefits of cooking a meal and sharing it with 4 people?
Right.
How about the benefits of, you cook, everybody cooks one night a
Yeah.
week. We'll go to Costco, we'll buy in bulk,
Yeah.
and now I'm also lowering what it costs to eat more nutritious food.
Let's talk about psychological benefits too. Like, just the fact that you have a community, that you have people that, like, we vet people to ensure they're a good fit for our values. Now, we're not like asking all the other tenants, like, hey, is this okay if John, because that would be a nightmare, right? If, at our scale. But we are vetting them to make sure they're a good fit. It's safe, they're clean, they're quiet, they're a professional, or they can afford what we are charging. And so we've had a lot of community. We'll get people that are just like, the community's amazing. Like, they don't have to, they can go to their room if they want to, but they have an ability to kind of built in community. When you move to a new city, or you just go through a divorce, or some big life change like that, like going into a community like this for a year, for 2 years, and I've had people stay 9 years, and this is how they live. This is a great way to live. So my vision for the future, man, is if people, how I usually explain this to people is, if people truly understood the benefits of co-living, cost, what they could save, how they could put money away, how they could send money to their family, how they could spend money on experiences, how they could get a built-in community and live in a nicer place than they would normally be able to live in, right? For a little less cost, then they would prefer, I think if most people were educated on it, they would prefer to live in co-living versus on their own. I know that I do. Like, my wife had to be like, well, she had to pull me away. I was having fun. It was this great place, and it wasn't a party environment either. It was just like, I got to work and I got to see people when I wanted to. And it was, so when I was on Bigger Pockets talking about this concept, and I had a guy, so when it first came out, I had this guy from Germany call me. He was like, man, do you think this is like such a new concept in the United States? He's like, in Germany, we've been doing this forever, bro. So it was just interesting. So the room is the new apartment, I think, for the future. And it's coming. Starts in Europe. It's coming this way.
That's right. Sam, got about 10 minutes left.
All right.
I think we've gotten right to the crux of the elephant in the room, which is the laws are not matching up to allow this. And that I'm glad we went there. It's what's prevented me from scaling out in the Philadelphia market, in the Pittsburgh market.
Yeah.
And there's there's a lot more we could discuss. You were on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And what has transpired since then?
Yeah, the biggest things that's transpired was just, I had so many people, thousands of people reaching out saying, if not thousands, like hundreds and hundreds. Like, it was overwhelming. Like, I started to take 5-minute meetings, and then I was like, I can't do this. This is crazy. So really, it was just my people wanting to learn about the model, people getting it. And the most common thing I heard was like, Sam, I love this. This feels like a win-win to me. Like, it feels like I can win as an investor. I can get my good cash on cash return, and I can help people. What else do you want in life? Like, that's brilliant, right? And so me and a partner launched a company called Scale Your Real Estate. And it's simple. I do 5-day challenges where people can buy, a ticket. I think it's like $97 for a ticket for 5 days, for an hour a day. I just teach. I mean, you can walk away from that 5-day challenge like, do your own. I have had people do the 5-day challenge and then they go open their own co-living community, and then if people want to go deeper and they want me to hold their hand, I've got year-long programs that I'll guide them and coach them and at different levels. So, so I get to coach people on how to do it now. So my whole focus is build, teach, manage, build. So what you were doing, I am also working to develop these from the ground up. And that is a process, and I'm in the middle of that process.
Nice.
Permitting, contractors, plans, development. Because if we could develop these from the ground up, it would be game over. Like, we can make them just exactly how we want them. We don't have to worry about rehabs or anything. We don't have to worry about adding bedrooms or bathrooms. Like, it's just like, boom, there it is. So build. Right. I'm teaching people. I'm educating people. Getting on podcasts like this helps me educate like the world on like how co-living is awesome, and hopefully just create some momentum to get long term, get the zoning regulations changed. And in the short term, just get people to understand it and get people to recognize we're not doing anything illegal. And we're working our way to help people. We're doing what we have to do, in my opinion, to help people. Sounds a little bit like Robin Hood, but
So how do you stay sharp, Sam? What is your personal development or practices for you? How do you stay you?
The biggest thing, I do the traditional things. I work out. I just finished my workout. I work out. I meditate. Not as often as you. You inspire me by your twice a day, man. That's awesome. I go to nature once or twice a week, and I spend time alone.
And time alone.
I'm alone. I gotta spend time alone. I gotta spend time alone. I journal. I'm always taking notes. I'm learning, and not to go too deep into this, but the one thing I've learned to do more than anything else this last year is to question, like ask good questions. And the simple one is that I've been asking myself recently is like, is it true? So anything that causes me a lot of pain, if I'm like, I should be more successful, I should be further ahead than I am, I should have more houses, then I just ask, like, is it true? Is that really true? Is that really
true? Did that come up from a book or an author that you would recommend?
Yeah, Byron Katie writes a book called Loving What Is. I think you're familiar with her work. She's so badass.
Sure is. And how about any charities? Or where do you donate and give back besides your martial arts studios and the students and all the Are there any nonprofits that you would like to highlight here?
Yeah, I'll somewhat selfishly, but we just got our 501c3 for the UpLevel Foundation, and so we give scholarships to martial arts schools all across the country. And if anybody doesn't know what martial arts does, it develops discipline, develops confidence, changes people's lives, brings families closer together. I mean, it's not about fighting; it's about who you become in the process of becoming a black belt, right? And so we just launched. My dad is the head. What do they call it? The director, the chairman of the board, I think is his technical title. And so we're giving scholarships, not just to our schools, but we're giving scholarships to any school in the United States for anybody who can't afford martial arts. And so I fund that. Some of the profit from the schools funds that. It's a super cool thing. We just got our official 501c3 status, we're super proud of. And so that's called the UpLevel Foundation. And it's a really beautiful thing. UpLevel Outreach. I'm sorry. We weren't allowed to call it a foundation because of our thing. It's UpLevel Outreach.
UpLevel Outreach. Yeah. Got it. So we're going to provide in these show notes links to get a hold of your multiple businesses. Sam, we're going to have you back to get the updates on where the co-living is, but also just talk about your mentality, your love. You have a love for life, my friend, and your energy helps to fill the room, man. And I'm really grateful for this time that you've spent with us today. And talk again soon.
All right, man. Thanks so much. It's an honor.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for listening to Living Well with Rentwell. We hope you loved that episode.
Please be sure to head over to our website at rentwell.com/vision. We're giving away our free program called Vision Through Purposeful Action. If you're a busy person, if you struggle with finding the time and priorities, or if you're experiencing procrastination and overwhelm, this free course will help you with that.
We wish you a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in, and check in later.